Are we ready to start? Okay. It looks like we're all here. Okay, we'll start. Welcome to MICCI Penang's annual luncheon dialogue. Sorry, no luncheon. Welcome to MICCI Penang's annual dialogue with the Right Honourable Chief Minister of Penang, YAB, Mr. Chow Kan Yao. Our guest of honour, Mr. YAB, Mr. Chow Kan Yao, MICCI Penang Branch Chairman, Mr. Michel Van Krombrugge, Mayor of MBSP, Datuk Haji Rosalie bin Haji Mohammed, CEO of Invest Penang, Datuk Lu Lilian, MBPP City Secretary, Datuk Adnan bin Muhammad Razali, CEO Penang Global Tourism, Mr. Ui Chok Yan and Mr. Murari Ram of Arup Kuala Lumpur. To all participants today, a big thank you for tuning in through Zoom and Facebook live stream. MICCI Penang has been conducting annual luncheon dialogues with the Chief Minister of Penang since 2013. We have walked away learning something new or have been able to bring a good suggestion to fruit. Some issues have been solved, some are still work in progress. This year, we plan, but as the old saying goes, man proposes, but God disposes. This virus pandemic has put paid to our arrangements for a physical luncheon session. But then, thank you technology, the savior of the year, because now we can actually work from home and get our work done. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce the branch chairman of MICCI Penang and the Northern Region, Mr. Michel Van Krombrugge. Mr. Michel Van Krombrugge is the country manager of Pyramid Malaysia Sdn Bhd, a factory in the forest. He has been the branch chairman since December 2017. Mr. Van Krombrugge has worked in Malaysia in various MNCs for the past 20 years and has over 30 years of experience in the EMS, high-tech and electronics industries. Mr. Michel combines OEM and EMS experience, having worked in various businesses and has gained extensive experience in multicultural and international environments, having worked in many countries. Michel is also an active member of Free Banker, AMMI, and the Rotary Club of Penang. He hopes that he will be able to serve the business community in the Northern Region and attend to any member company issues that are industry related. Over to you, Mr. Michel.
Thank you, Priscilla, for that introduction. I'm going to speak briefly today because we have an amazing panel, and I want to maximize the time for our members to engage with the panel. Yang Amat Berhormat Mr. Chow Kan Yao, Chief Minister of Penang, Dato SR Haji Rosali bin Haji Mohamud, Mayor MBSP, Dato Lu Lilian, CEO Invest Penang, Dato IR Adnan bin Muhammad Razali, City Secretary of MBPP, Mr. Ui Chok Yan, CEO Penang Global Tourism, members of MICCI, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure indeed to welcome you to the 7th MICCI Dialogue with the Chief Minister of Penang. To no one's surprise, this year's theme is how the public and private sector can engage for Penang's economic recovery during and post-COVID-19. The pandemic has upset our normal ways of doing things. We had planned our signature luncheon dialogue, but due to the COVID-19 situation, we had to change plans. That is why we are so happy and honored that despite the difficult conditions we have to operate with, the Chief Minister of the State of Penang, the Mayor of MPSP, the City Secretary of MBPP, the CEO of Invest Penang, and the CEO of Penang Global Tourism could reserve their time to be with us today, albeit virtually. Also thanks to the moderator, Mr. Murali Ram, Senior Consultant at Arup, for kindly accepting to provide guidance in the subsequent panel discussion. Our meeting bears great significance, given the reach and unpredictability of this dangerous COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on our socio-economic life. Humanity is known for its resilience against adversity. Everyone is making every effort to alleviate the impact of the pandemic. Solidarity and initiative are key. I'm happy and grateful to cite examples from MICCI members on COVID-19 support activities that have been extending to the local communities, such as creating interest in the STEM subjects among Malaysian youth through the Penang International Science Fair and organizing of DNA workshops. Supporting the education of special needs children of the Two-Way Center and Rohingya preschool children. Donation of masks, PPE, intravenous catheters, hand sanitizers to Bamba and the Royal Malaysian Police. Contribution of refurbished laptops to a primary school to facilitate online schooling. Supplying food, water and electricity for our frontliners, the Royal Malaysian Police and our armed forces and army personnel who are manning the roadblocks. Spread joy and good health, remind us, with the underprivileged side of society. Convert discarded clean and hygienic good quality bed linens into wearable face masks. Medical staff from private hospitals organizing exercise and health talks via webinars. MICCI Penang distributing face masks to its member schools and colleges. All these group contributions total easily more than 1 million Malaysian ringgit. In summary, we see state agencies, companies, and private persons engaged and helping out with COVID-19 supporting activities. Efforts to contain the pandemic have produced encouraging results. The rate of infection in Malaysia and Penang is much lower than the global average. And although there are indications that vaccines may become available in the not too distant future, we can't grow complacent. It is necessary to stand united and act with determination in a cohesive and responsive spirit. The impact of the pandemic is very sector dependent. Tourism, airlines, malls, private hospitals, restaurants, international education, property, and the arts community are suffering, while others like industrial port activity, the manufacturing sector, banking and accounting companies seem to face a less challenging environment. MICCI is representing a broad cross-section of all these sectors and has collected a number of queries from its members. We are thankful to the state government that it is always open to listen and is committed to engage, so that together, with concrete measures put forward, we can better overcome the effects of the pandemic. We will hear from the Chief Minister and the panelists which initiatives have already been taken to alleviate the effects of the virus and where they believe we could support further. After the Chief Minister's address, we're looking forward to a constructive virtual dialogue based on the many questions already sent in and more to come during the dialogue. I'd like to thank the MICCI Penang Committee and its members for their strong support in making this dialogue session a great success. My special thanks once again to YIB Chief Minister Chow Kon Yeow, Dato Rosali, Dato Adnan, Dato Lu Lilian, and Mr. Oh Chok Yang. On behalf of MICCI Penang in the North, I'm looking forward to a fruitful dialogue session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Venkrambuge. Is my mic on? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Venkrambuge. I would now like to call upon our Right Honorable Chief Minister of Penang, Mr. Chow Kon Yeow, to deliver his opening address. As most of you already know who YAB Mr. Chow is, I shall not delve into a lengthy introduction. I would, however, like to say that YAB Mr. Chow's administration has committed to ensure delivery of 3 mega projects, namely the Penang Transport Master Plan, flood mitigation, and affordable housing. Undaunted by the higher expectation, he takes this as a challenge to serve Penangites and find ways to make the state a better home for all. Besides that, Mr. Chow also aims to transform Penang into a family-focused, green and smart state that inspires the nation with the Penang 2030 vision. And this is the current focus of the state government. So I'm hoping YAB has some good news for all of us. YAB, the platform is all yours.
Introduction to Mr. Michel van Kromperger, Chairman of the Northern Branch MICCI, fellow panelists, participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon. We missed the luncheon, of course. Thank you, MICCI, for organizing and inviting me to speak at today's dialogue session. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, right from the get-go, has crowded us with uncertainties and marked a rather gloomy start for 2020. Against such a backdrop, I believe the theme for this year's dialogue, Penang's economic recovery post-COVID-19, has adequately encompassed our current position in addressing the repercussions brought about by the pandemic. Despite the challenging time, I have just announced the MIDA figure for investment the third quarter just now in the press conference. And I'm happy to note that up to the third quarter 2020, investment into Penang, we have achieved 10.6 billion ringgit. Although, of course, the figure in 2019 were much higher because 2019 was a record year in terms of FDI into Penang. And as usual, the three sectors, electronics and electrical, machinery and equipment, and scientific and measuring equipment sectors remain the state focus area, which collectively contributed about 88% of Penang total approved manufacturing investment up to the third quarter of this year. On top of that, Penang has once again demonstrated its leading role in Malaysia's FDI. And up to the third quarter of this year, we have, out of the 10.6 billion total investment, 8.82 comes from foreign direct investment. So Penang is the top FDI contributor for the nation. And so far for this year, the top sources of FDI into Penang were from Singapore, Switzerland, and the United States. Remarkably, we have observed an upward momentum in the presence of MNCs in Penang. Aside from the notable new investments, which we announce from time to time, such as LAM Research, Texcom, and UCT, the state is also glad to see an increasing number of existing MNCs, which further deepen their roots through expansion in Penang. Their continuous confidence in the state has definitely reaffirmed our position as a preferred investment destination for high quality and high value added projects. I am glad that Penang's manufacturing sector remains promising with the ability to cushion the struggling service sector and support our local economy during this pandemic. Despite the obscure global macro environment and the imposition of movement control order earlier this year, Penang's export grew 6% year-on-year for the first 9 months of 2020. In contrast to Malaysia, 3% export drop during the same period. Zooming into the third quarter of 2020, Penang's export amounted to 33% of Malaysia's total and has contributed nearly 58% of the nation's trade surplus amount, signifying our resilient industrial ecosystem even under such challenging time during this pandemic season. Though we are now in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with the implementation of CMCO, I'm confident that Penang can ride out the storm. I would like to reassure the Rakyat that safeguarding and the well-being of the people in the state is our continuous priority in these unprecedented times. We understand that the imperativeness to stay alert in containing the spread of COVID-19 while simultaneously maintaining the needs of businesses and industry. The state agencies like Invest Penang, Penang Development Corporation, and the local authorities and other agencies are committed and will ensure continuous liaison with existing and potential investors in exploring the many facets of opportunity under the new normal. And Priscilla talked about technology during this pandemic. So we hope that we can grow this sector and to welcome more investment in the tech sector. I trust that all enterprises strictly will comply with the SOP. There have been some cases involving the factory the last 2 weeks, and I want to reiterate that compliance of SOP not only in the factory environment, but from the workers' hostel, the transportation, right up to the factory environment. We have to ensure that SOP comply tightly, fully, so that we can break the chain of infection that we face currently. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to come again for today's dialogue, and hope that my fellow panelists will be able to address some of the concern that may be posed by MICCI and your members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, YAB. I would now like to briefly introduce our panelists so we can concentrate on all the questions that were put forth. We had over 20 questions, which is very good. First, Dato' SR Haji Rosali bin Haji Mohammed, Mayor of Seberang Perai City Council, MPSB. Dato' is a fellow of the Royal Institution of Surveyors, Malaysia, FRISM, a registered valuer and registered estate agency with Board of Valuers, Appraisers and Estate Agents of Malaysia, ISO 9001 Lead Auditor and ISO 9001 Internal Auditor. He is also the Chief Information Officer for Seberang Perai City Council, which is responsible for developing initiatives and strategies to realize Seberang Perai Smart City. Dato' Haji Rosali has also formulated MPSB Strategic Plan 2018-2022, Low Carbon City Green Print 2022, and Seberang Perai Climate Action Strategy. He has initiated Seberang Perai Circular Economy Roadmap for waste sector, which aim to diversity economy sectors in the city and to provide opportunity for young entrepreneurs to explore new ideas through innovative smart solutions. We have Dato' IR Adnan bin Muhammad Razali, City Secretary of City Council of Penang, MBPP. Dato' Adnan commenced his career in 1980 with the Drainage and Irrigation Department, DID, as Assistant Engineer at DID Kedah Muda 2 project. Dato' Adnan joined MPPP in 1984 and has worked in various sections in the engineering department until his promotion to Director of Engineering in 2012, and then to City Secretary in 2018. He has been active with IEM Northern Branch till 2002 and later Penang Branch for 25 years, from 1993 to 2018, and was the chairman for Penang GNS section and in the Penang Branch Committee. Dr. Lu Lilian, Chief Executive Officer of Invest Penang since March 2010, graduated with Bachelor of Economics and Accounting from University of Adelaide, South Australia, and received a Masters of Business Administration from the University of South Australia. At state level, Ms. Lu is a member of the KPI Task Force of the Penang Development Corporation, a committee overseeing the operation and management of the State Economic Development Corporation. She is also a member of the selection committee of the Penang Future Foundation, the Penang State Government Scholarship Program for University Undergraduate Studies. Dr. Lu is also a council member of the Penang Accelerator for Creative Analytics and Technology, that's Penang ACAP. I call it ACHA. Dr. Lu has more than 20 years of industry background in the various sectors of the manufacturing industry. She has led companies in strategic planning, project management, operations, business development, supply chain management, customer strategies, and international business migration. She also speaks in corporate conferences, community seminars focusing on job diversity, women empowerment, and youth education programs. Mr. Ooi Chok Yang holds a bachelor's degree in graphic design. He began his career in design and advertising after graduating from the RMIT University in Melbourne, Australia. Mr. Chok is the Chief Executive Officer of Penang Global Tourism. He is responsible to promote, market, and generate tourism to Penang by working closely with key tourism players locally and internationally. Since his appointment in August 2014, Mr. Chok Yang has established signature events to draw large numbers of visitors to Penang, such as the Penang Hot Air Balloon Fiesta and Penang Anime Masturi, which have become annual events. Also, during the recent years, Penang has been accorded with numerous accolades from renowned international media such as CNN, Lonely Planet, Los Angeles Times, Forbes, Yahoo Travel, and New York Times. Without a doubt, these accolades derive from the concentrated effort of the Penang State Government, PGT, and key tourism players locally and abroad. In line with the Penang State Government's aim to establish Penang as a creative and innovation hub, Penang Global Tourism strives to come up with interesting tourism events and campaigns to lure visitors to Penang. Last but not least, we have our moderator. Our moderator for our webinar series today is Mr. Murali Ram, Senior Consultant with ARUP and the Country Facilitator for the Malaysia-UK Partnering for Accelerated Climate Transition Program. Murali has moderated for our luncheon dialogues with the Chief Minister the last 2 years. So this is his third year here with us. Previously, Mr. Murali used to be based in Penang with Think City Sdn Bhd. Looks like all our panelists are Penang people, so yeah, I think we're going to have something really good for Penang. But before we continue, some housekeeping rules for the participants. Please post your questions in the chat or Facebook Messenger and indicate your name, your company, and who the question is directed to. I now hand the session over to our moderator, Mr. Murali Ram. All yours.
Well, thank you, Priscilla. Welcome, everyone. So we have 45 participants, and that's including the speakers. So I think about 35 out there. So a few ground rules. We've got already about 20 questions, but if you have any other questions, you can type them into the chat box here in Zoom, or else, as Priscilla said, type it into FB Messenger. And Priscilla, please, could you then take that and put it in the chat box? So I only have to look at one chat box. Great. Before we start with the questions, maybe I start with some niceties as usual, you know. So first of all, a very big congratulations to Priscilla for becoming a grandmother for the first time. Finally, your status is, matching your hair. Secondly, to YAB Chow Kan Yeow, happy belated birthday. I was a big celebration in Penang on Saturday, public holiday and everything. So, you know, happy belated birthday. To the mayor of MBSP, congratulations. I heard you just won the most productive government organization in the northern region. So fantastic achievement. And to the City Secretary of the MBPP, you just recently won Gold Award for the Green Connectivity in Mobility category. So congratulations. As for Datuk Lu Lilian, well, congratulations. I just heard that we had 10.6 billion ringgit in investment this last year. So fantastic achievement. And for Ooi Chok Yang, sorry, this is not your year. It's COVID. So we understand. Next year, perhaps, huh? Right. So with that, let's get straight into the question. First of all, the first question I would direct to Dato' Lilian. If any of the other panelists feel like they want to also answer, just please step in. You can just unmute and come in, or you can keep your mics unmuted immediately so that we don't have to lag. So Dato' Lilian, a question for you is, what are the talent development initiatives in engineering and IT currently in place in Penang?
Hi everyone. Can you hear me, Murali?
Yeah, I can hear you, loud and clear.
Thank you. I think already in his opening address, Michelle has already talked about how some of your members in MICCI have been contributing to some of the STEM initiatives in Penang. So those are the initiatives that we have. So we have the STEM, Penang STEM. And under Penang STEM, we have the Penang Skill Development Center, Penang Science Cluster, the ACAD, Penang Tech Dome, and the Penang Max platform, and the digital library. So those are the few initiatives that's been, we started it maybe about 7-8 years ago, and they're still active. And each of them addresses different level of the students. So some of them address the lower primary school up to secondary school, like the digital library, the Max platform, the Tech Dome, and the Science Cluster. Those addresses or have programs for the primary school and the secondary schools. Whereas the ACAD and the PSTC moves towards more to the vocational, TVET, and also entrepreneurship or after universities. So these are various, a lot of initiatives on science. Of course, all of them have gone virtual now. And the other one that we have is the Penang Future Foundation. This is a foundation set by the state about 8-9 years ago. And we give scholarship to students mainly in STEMs, and the students can come from all over Malaysia. All they have to do is that when they graduate, they have to come to Penang to work. And we give scholarships on mainly sciences, engineering, accounting, finance, and technology. And these are courses that's very much in demand in the industries. Yeah, so those are the various initiatives that we have. We're going to be looking at a lot of demands for engineering and technical with the new investments that we have. So we will need to be stepping up on more of this activity. It's to inculcate the interest in science and technology among students. Many of our kids do not understand what an engineer do, for example. So these programs take them to school and give them exposure of what an engineer do on a day-to-day basis. So just to get them interested in science. Thank you.
Well, excellent. Thanks a lot, Dato'. Actually, the Forward School initiative is something that's really very, very, I think, groundbreaking. And it's supported by MDEC, right? And it's being studied by many of the other players, I would say. But yeah, really good initiative. The next question is for both yourself and the CM. What is Penang's economic outlook for 2021 looking like? What do you think? And any new investments coming in R&D or manufacturing in the state for the next year?
I should leave it to my boss to answer first.
Boss.
I will answer as much as I could, and Lilian will sambung. The global economy is riding on a roller coaster year 2020 as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. As Penang is heavily relying on external demand, both in the manufacturing and the service sector, we think that our economy will be affected by the health crisis, and all economic activities are expected to experience a significant slowdown. Especially, Mulari, you say this year it's a bad year for Chok Yan, and I think it is. Particularly the international arrival is down to 0. Last 2 months, maybe we have some domestic tourist arrival from other states, but with the third wave coming and the CMCO, we are also back to square one. So it is going to be a very challenging year for the tourism sector in particular. The global manufacturing supply chain has been disrupted. Whether we will see a U-shaped rebounds or a W-shaped rebounds, we hope to ride it through. And our economy registered a slower growth last year, undermined by the challenging global trade environment. And the state GDP grew at 3.58% compared to 5.1% the previous year. And as Malaysia's largest GDP per capita state, manufacturing sector remained the second largest contributor to the national GDP after Selangor, underpinned by continued and robust capital movement. Regarding the trade, as Malaysia's major export-oriented manufacturing hub, Penang's trade surplus continue to expand along with improved global export demand amid the US-China trade war. Machinery and transport equipment and miscellaneous manufactured articles remain the core exported products connecting to the global value chain, largely from the E&E and medical devices industry. Bayang Lepas Airport continued to handle the largest export value in Malaysia. We are great to hear that. With the implementation of MCO, export handled at Bayang Lepas Airport was the least impacted compared with goods handled through sea and land transport in the first 5 months of 2020. Trade surplus is expected to persist in 2020, although at a lower level, and rising import corresponding to the subdued global demand. It is expected and hopefully export and trade will rebound in 2021, given the positive news about the vaccine that would be available probably in the second quarter of next year. And at this point of time, I think the effect of a new leadership in the United States on Penang and Malaysia is still hard to predict, given the multitude of factors, and also we have not heard any announcement about policy direction from the new administration. And I think now I invite Lilian to take over.
Very good, Sian. I think you know that the twin engine of Penang's economy is from manufacturing and from the service sector. And the service sector, a large part of it is also services that supports the industry. And then we also have the hospitality or tourism, and also the medical tourism as well. So medical tourism and hospitality, like what CM and Murali you've mentioned, I think Chok Yong already died this year, probably will not recover for next year, which means that we have to work a lot harder to catch up and make up for what we lose in the tourism and the hospitality industry. I think we see that even from hospitals, they're all doing so badly because the Indonesians can't come in. But fortunately for us, because we worked so hard in 2019 and 2018, now manufacturing FDI that comes in, we typically have to work between 2 years or even up to 4 years to materialize a project. So the impact or the effect of all those hard work that we put in, and in the last 2 years, we've seen it come to fruition. Last year in 2019, when we recorded such good figures, and also this year, not too bad given even the COVID condition. So our aim now is to make sure that all these projects are implemented on the ground quickly, and so that job will be created and there will be multiplier effect for next year. So our focus for this year and next year, this year and next year, is to implement the new projects. We can't go out to look for new investment. Our investors can't come in. That's a bottleneck, and that's really very challenging for us. So whatever we've recorded for the last 2 years, we're working very hard to implement that. We see that whatever the challenges that we face these 2 years, will probably, the impact will be for the investment figure for 2021-22 will look quite miserable because of the challenges that we're facing now. The current manufacturers that we have now are also facing great opportunities because of the US-Chinese trade war and the trade supply chain diversion. So many of them have seen growth figures and expanding their capacity and their operation. But again, the challenges are can't bring in machine in, can't send out technicians for training, can't bring in customers. So those are still challenges. But we see that 2021 will continue to be a challenging, very challenging year. But we hope that all those investments that we have will work very hard to materialize that, and with them, some of the supply chain that's coming in, we hope to also bring them in next year and the year after.
Right, thanks, Dato. Looks like you're doing all you can in the circumstances, and right now we're just trying to get the fruits of our labor from past years. Right.
Yes.
Next question is for the CM. Everybody wants to know what's the latest with the LRT project. So yeah, over to you, CM.
This has become FAQ, frequently asked question. The latest is the Land Public Transport Agency has sent a letter on the 10th November recently, stipulating a few more conditions for us to comply before they issue the final approval. We have obtained a conditional approval last year, but since our proposed depot is to be located on the proposed Island A, so that has created some problem because SPAD has not given any such approval before when land don't even exist. So it is this technical issue that we have to resolve. They wanted us to obtain the EIA and SIA for this particular segment, that is from the current island connecting to the future island. And if we can obtain that, we also need to finalize the location of the station right in front of the Bayang Lepas Airport. We have some issue with the airport authority. They wanted us to site the station further away, but we think that a station should be located nearest to the airport. So that has to be resolved. And I would say that it would take some years before the project can be completed because our financing of this infrastructure project is through the reclamation. So we all know that we need to do the reclamation first, obtain revenue from the land sales through the purchase of land for industrial development and other mixed development before we can have sufficient funding for the LRT project. So if this is to be the financial architecture, then the LRT can only be implemented later than the reclamation of the first island, provided if the federal government can give us a guarantee or a grant amounting to a few billion, then I think we can start the two projects simultaneously. Failing which, we will still have to spend a few years on the reclamation, generate the revenue, and then the surplus will be used to finance the LRT project.
So roughly, can we say it can start in about 5 years?
I would say the reclamation is scheduled to start next year. So 5 years can be a very optimistic timeline. I think we will try to work towards that end.
All right, thank you, YB. Now we move to Chok Yen. Get ready, Chok Yen. So, what plan does the Penang State government has to revive tourism industry in 2021? So, what are we doing now for next year? And how is the state, well, maybe this one, I'll come to the next one. So first question is, what plans do you have to revive the tourism industry in 2021?
Okay, thank you. As everyone know, yes, this year is not a very good year for tourism, but it's not very bad as well, especially for Penang, because as a destination, Penang, we actually have quite a balance between domestic tourism and international tourism. It's around domestic, around 45%, international is 55%. So currently when the border is locked down, we are focusing on the domestic tourism, which is 45%, which is we're seeing quite a spike after the June or July time until August as well. As CM mentioned, because of the third wave, then we see things have been slowing down. And then now, because of the CMCO, though things has been kind of like still. Yeah, we do hope that things will pick up again after the CMCO, which is we're talking about next year. We believe that people are eager to travel. Traveling is become part of people's lifestyle nowadays. Everyone will at least make a holiday trip once or twice a year, and then they will travel domestic or internationally. So I think people are prepared to travel. It's just in a matter of time. For example, for the international tourists, it's just when the border will be open. For the domestic is when the CMCO will be ended. What is the preparation that we're doing now? Actually, as a State Tourism Bureau, we are doing a lot of branding exercise, basically just keep Penang of top of mind of people. So we have a lot of branding campaign that's ongoing on the social media platform, as nowadays everyone is actually work from home or stuck at home. So social media platform or digital platform is the most efficient ways. And then beside that, we also work closely with airlines as well, because they actually plan things ahead. For example, for international tourists, for example, we are working with very closely with Singapore Airline. So we are having a campaign with them. Basically, we are actually working a campaign with SIA. So any their passenger is actually searching for Penang for the past few months, or been to Penang or visit Penang before, they will actually push Penang content to them. Hey, just update them what is the latest things that has happened in Penang and things like that. Because we need to keep in mind is that when the border is open, it's not only Penang. We are competing with other countries as well. So what we're doing now is more on the branding exercise. Keep Penang in top of mind a lot of people. And of course, we are working with the online travel agents as well on a tactical campaign. We are working with few parties. For example, we're working with online travel agents that's focused on attractions. So and some is focused on hotels, and some is focused on air tickets. And then now is a concept of buy now, travel later. So yeah, so these are some of the things that we are preparing. And then of course, to promote Penang as a safe destination, a few things that the state is actually taking some extra steps. For example, our COVID-19 accreditation programs. Penang is the first state who actually have this program. And then we also initiate by Penang, which is the EXCO of Tourism and Creative Economy, YBO, which is a responsible tourism. So this kind of campaign will actually give tourists a peace of mind when they visit Penang, which is, as we said now, safety is a new currency for tourism. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chokan. Yeah, it's not. I don't envy you. It's not a great position to be in at the moment, but I'm sure you're doing your best. The next question is a little bit, it's people have asked, so I have to ask you, or CM can come in. What is the state government planning to do in support of tourism players like hotels to get through this tough time? I understand it's not really within your jurisdiction because you don't collect the taxes, but people have this notion that the state should help in every aspect. But anyway, that's the question. So what answer would you give to that?
Okay. For this, I think there's a few ways that we can look at it. Basically, is if we talking about what the state is doing to help everyone. Okay, there's few levels and there's few areas that the state is doing. For example, to the federal levels, the state, which is the EXCO of tourism and creative economy, is actually writing to the Minister of Tourism, talking about the travel bubble, which is 2 days ago. Dato Sri Nancy is also talking about that possibility. So beside that, I think 2 weeks ago, YBU is also right to federal regarding the budget of 2021. For example, to impose the waiver of a license renewal fee for travel agent and tour guide, and then also to extend the 15% electric bill discount for the selected sectors such as hotels operators, travel agent, shopping complex, convention center, theme parks, and local airlines officers. And also the last one is actually everyone is asking for it, which is the extension of the moratorium and the wage subsidy. So this is what state has been writing to the federal level. On the state level, after CMCO, the Penang state has actually kickstart the 75 million package Bantuan Rakyat Pulau Pinang, and then which help. And then beside that, there's also a 10 million loan for the scheme per car, which is specific to the tourism industry, which is they will get a zero interest loan that will help them to actually improve the cash flow for the time being. And then so for the, if you're talking about for the industry players and the workers as well, the Penang state also provide this financial aid, to like tour guides, bus drivers, and then also trishaw riders, taxi drivers, and also e-hailing drivers as well. So also others tourism related that's actually benefit from this. And then by doing that also, the Penang state is also setting up this Penang Economy Recovery Advisory Board, which is led by the EXCO of Tourism and Creative Economy, which is working on the formulate a sustainable strategy and innovation approach on tourism. And then to help the industry players, we're also working on the Penang Tourism Recovery Plan, which is involve all the associations such as hotels, MA and MIBA, travel agents, which is MCTA, MATA, NICA as well. So this is some of the things that we're working to help the industry players for the time being. I hope I answered.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And there's an additional question that's coming on this. Does the tourism aid extend to nightclubs, gastropubs, etc.? Hey, they're in a really bad position,
I think I'll leave it to CM.
CM, he's passed the buck to you. There's a tourism aid extends to nightclubs, KTV, gastropubs. They are also part of tourism ecosystem.
If they are in the sector, they are eligible to get this loan scheme by the state government, but I have no detail as to whether any nightclubs has submitted application for this interest-free loan from the state government.
Okay, so there you go. So please do try. Next question is a statement and then followed by a question. So I'll open it up to the panel. Increase efforts to reduce foreign workers. That's the statement. And it goes to say, as demand for Penang's limited industrial land keeps growing, it's an opportune time for Penang to introduce strong measures to reduce reliance of foreign workers in all sectors of industrial and commercial activities. So with the current COVID-19 and closing of international borders, we are having shortage of manpower in Penang industries, especially in manufacturing, operators, technicians, etc. So what are the efforts of the state government in attracting local manpower from other states, right? So maybe in terms of giving them housing incentives, etc., especially those from the region. So Perlis, Kedah, Kelantan, even Sabah and Sarawak. So what are we doing to attract local talents to Penang? Who would like to take this?
Lilian, I think.
Lilian.
Okay. I think one of our, Malaysia loses a lot of talent to other countries, right? Sorry, am I doing? Oh, sorry, Malay. Okay, sorry. We are Malaysia traditionally has been exporting talent to other countries, and one of them is Singapore, right? If you go to Singapore, you'll find that and you visit factories there, a good 50% chance that the CEO and the senior management are all from Malaysia. And what we wanted to do was to attract talent from all over other parts of Malaysia to come into Penang to work. We want Penang to be the go place for talent, especially for engineering students and technical students from universities to come to Penang to look for jobs, and to be a place where we can offer them good opportunities to learn and to learn about the highest and the most advanced technology in the world because of all the good companies we have here. But one of the factor that always challenge for the talent from other countries, from other states, is that they find that housing in Penang is extremely expensive. And if you look at the Penang working population, I think about 30% of our workforce are migrant from other states. And in the 80s and 90s, there were many young graduates that came from Ipoh and even up from Johor to come to Penang to work, because at that time housing was relatively cheap. You could buy a landed house for 300,000, whereas now you have to pay about $1 million to get a landed house. And I think both city councils are here to challenge my statement if I'm wrong. But one of the factors that for us to attract, I think commercially, our factories here pay good salary. Commercially, our industries here provide excellent opportunities for them to grow, not only within the job scope in Penang, but also internationally and regionally. They offer them good exposure to technology and to the great and the highest technology that the company can offer. Talent like to come here to live and to work, but the biggest challenge they have is housing, because they find that for them to be able to buy a house, it's too expensive. It's a high percentage of the salary. The mortgage cost is a huge percentage of the salary. So having said that, maybe I could pass to the mayor and Dr. Adnan to address that question.
Dr. Adnan, she passed to you pula. So on the housing issue, on maybe Penang being an expensive place, you're muted by the way. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think the housing issue need to be addressed not by the council actually. The council just approve plans for whatever development need to be. Maybe the address to this issue will be done by maybe REDA to have cheaper houses, that kind of thing. Not by the local council in terms of provision of cheap housing for people coming to work in Penang.
Well, I think well said. I think the cheap houses are all in Seberang Perai. So maybe we ask Dato' Razali. All our new talents coming in should be living in Seberang Perai.
I think I want to go back to the original question. We should give opportunity to the local working rather than, and when we have to limit the foreign workers in the community. Seberang Perai City Council recently established a workers policy in the business premises, whereby 30% of the workers should be local. So we implemented and put it in the licensing condition. 30% of the workers in the business premises should be local. And it was extended to the sundries or grocery shop where no foreign workers are allowed. The policy was just implemented. We have yet to see the results of the policy. Earlier on, we don't allow any hawkers license issued to the foreigners. That will give the opportunity for the local to work in the business, downstream business. That is the effort that we have focused, because we are, more authority on this down the line business workers policy. Back to you, Murali.
Thank you. Actually, the next question, it's all related. So,
Murali,
yeah, Dr. Lilian,
can I just interject that? I think one point to also note is that when we bring in new companies and new projects, we make sure that all of them have very low direct labor content. And more, and in some of our new projects, almost 100% of the manpower requirements are for diploma level and above, technical and technician level and above, right? So, so the question is, how do we reduce the dependency on foreign workers? I think the factories are all starting to do that, either by automation, Industry 4.0, adoption of mechanizing all the production line, and reducing the dependency on foreign workers. But Penang is a very small state, and as we bring in more and more investment, we'll find that we need more and more skilled and exempt and knowledge workers. And this is a question where I was trying to make, if you bring in more and more knowledge workers from other parts of the state, we need, and especially technicians and engineers, we need to address, the livability of the city and the housing requirement of the city. Now we're consistently losing talent for abroad. Yourself, for example, you've left Penang. You left Penang, right?
Yes.
Right. So we're trying to address that, right? So this, by creating job opportunity and making Penang livable, and that's why CM and the mayors all have a big hand in making Penang livable and attractive enough for us to attract talent from other parts of Malaysia to come in, because more and more we're getting industries that are requiring very specialized skills and very knowledge and skilled workers and staff employees. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dato' Lilian. I think you make a fantastic point in that it's not so easy to say let's get people from around the region to come, because it's very specific, the type of talent that you need. Especially in this era of knowledge workers, so to speak. And also a lot of the new investments that are coming may not be so labor intensive with the new technologies that are coming in. So even for manufacturing, you have more robotics. So you need knowledge workers to manage the robots rather than and the robots have replaced their jobs basically. Which brings me to the next few questions, which are all related to talent. So the first one is, how would Penang deal with unemployment from the tourism industry? So that's one question, but that relates also to the next question, which is, could the state government consider creating some sort of a job portal, right? Where job seekers can put up their CVs and employers can put out their resources and do some sort of skills matching. So is that something that's on the horizon? Who would like to take this? It'll be either yourself, Dr. Lilian, or CM.
Yeah. I answer the second question about your suggestion to have a job portal so that there can be matching of jobs with the employer. I think we have already launched such an initiative almost 10 years ago. We call it the Penang CAT Center, CAT CAT Center, Career Assistance and Training Center, in Komta in the early days, and now has moved to West Penang. And through this CAT Center website, job seekers could see the jobs available and apply directly to the respective employers. But I think over the past few years, because unemployment is not a challenging issue in Penang, in fact, there are a lot of jobs opportunity. So this portal it was established when it was a more challenging period of time in the turn of the new decade. So, but nevertheless, it is still there. Job seekers can now also post their CV for future job matching. And as I say, it's now managed by Invest Penang. Employers who are interested and even job seekers who are interested can go into Penang CAT Center directly or to contact Invest Penang. With regard to the question about unemployment from the tourism industry, maybe we take a look at the overall situation. Based on the statistic issued by Penang PEKESO, which is the Social Security Organization, they have recently took over the responsibility from Jabatan Tenaga Rakyat, I think. So PEKESO is now looking into figures about unemployment. From January to November 13, which is just last week, a total of job loss recorded is 9,891, comprising 5,175 male and 4,716 female. That is the overall picture, but for the sector of accommodation and F&B, which is tourism related, during this period, unemployment recorded is 893 out of the 9,000 that I said earlier. 893 from the accommodation and F&B tourism related sector. However, during this period, PEKESO has placement for 825 in this sector in their hiring incentive program during the same period. And the PEKESO overall has also managed to secure 8,014 placement in various industry under this hiring incentive program. Although most of this hiring are for lower income jobs from 1,500 low. But nevertheless, with that number, PEKESO through this incentive program have also sort of have 8,000 over job placement during this period for the age group of 20 to 34, let's say. So it is although there have been some job losses, there are also job opportunity that we have highlighted over the last few months. And for November in particular, we see only about 324 job loss. So it is sort of a manageable figure, and we hope that the investment that we talk about, the effort by Invest Penang and PDC, the focus to implement the investment secure in 2019 and 2020, to implement them so that the job promised by this investment, I have also announced just now, for the 10.6 billion investment, we will be creating another 9,000 jobs, 9,000 odd jobs. So the challenge now, as Lilian pointed out, is to ensure that this investment are actualized and implemented on the ground so that this job opportunity will be made available when the factories are ready. So another 9,000 over jobs will be created. Maybe not now, because the factory takes a year or so to be implemented, building and production to commence. So as Lilian talked about a bleak year 2021, 2022 in terms of investment, but 2021 may also see the realization of the earlier investment, translating this investment into job opportunity in 2021 and 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. I didn't know Picasso did that kind of service, which is actually very commendable. Just as a gap, as you mentioned, YB, obviously these jobs are very focused on the lower end, and then the higher end jobs, they know how to leverage and network, and the jobs may not be in Penang, but they know how to move. But it's like people who just come into the workplace, fresh job seekers, fresh off the university, so they maybe need some helping hand. So just as a suggestion, I think Rafizi Ramli runs this Invoke, and they used to do this pairing of jobs and all that. In fact, where I live in KL now, my MP, Fahmi Fazil, his service center is also a pusat kerja. So people can walk in, and he does this pairing and all that. So it helps the local community at whichever level, and the MP takes that role to help them find jobs. So just putting it out there. Next question would be for Dr. Lilian, and this relates to your statement about talent leaving. So partly it's because of a lack of diversity of jobs, right? So the question is, what is Penang doing, or how can Penang diversify away from depending on big chunks, like semiconductor or tourism, So how can we do diversification of our economy? Are there any strategies in place for that?
I think we have, we are already diversifying into other sectors. For example, we're no longer dependent on just semicon or the E&E sector. We already have grown our medical tech sector. With last couple of years, we have a few amazing companies that set up shop here, and we have 2 more projects in the pipeline. So we are already known now as one of the medical hub in the world. Medical companies, medical device companies, clusters, they cluster around each other. They are already, like in the US, they are in Boston and Minneapolis. They are in Ireland and Costa Rica. And Penang has now become the medical hub of Asia. And we're very proud of that. Medical device is a sector that I'm very passionate about it, because very high gross profit margin, 80% and on average. It's in the semicon sector, you have cyclical movement, but medical device, good times, bad times, you still need medical devices. So that's one area we have diversified into. Automation is another area that we have diversified into, and many of the local companies are big players in the automation sector. Actually, we have close to about 6 to 8 already local companies in the automation sector who are already listed in Bursa, and we are actually now known as one of the maker for the automation sector for the back-end semicon. So that's another area that we have diversified into. GBS is another area that we've diversified into. Outside of KL, we are now the GBS hub of Malaysia, attracting many big companies, which are, some of them have got operations in manufacturing operations here, and some of them who do not have. So that's another area that we diversified into. Medical tourism. So it's not just tourism, but it's also medical tourism. Penang contributes almost 50% of Malaysia's medical tourism dollar earned. So that's another area that we are already diversifying into. We try to do financial services, but unfortunately, we're a second-tier city. We can never win. That's not going to be a big win for us, because KL will always be the corporate banking and the headquarters, whereas we will always be the branch banking. So that area we tried, but we're not very successful.
Thank you for that. I've got another question here, but this one is for everyone except Chok Yan. So Chok Yan, you can relax. This one is a bit sensitive, okay? So the question is, infrastructure in Penang Science Park is still very poor. I think this question has come up in the last 2 annual luncheon as well. Terrible road conditions, poor mobile network coverage, inexisting food offerings, no public transportation. What's happening? So I think my first question I would like to ask is, who is in charge? Is it PDC? Is it Invest Penang? Is it MBSP? I'll come to MBPP in a while when you talk about on the island side, but who is in charge? That's the first question.
Let Dato' Rosali
Science
try.
Park is, okay. Penang Science Park is not fully developed yet. So it's our policy, any development that is not fully developed, the maintenance of the infrastructure is in the hands of the developer. In this case, it's a PDC. However, from time to time, MBSP coming in to help if that situation getting bad or worse. For example, like grass cutting, road patching, sometimes we do help. But asking about who has the authority on who maintaining the area, especially Penang Science Park, is a Penang Development Corporation.
Okay, so when we talk about PDC, we talk to the chairman. YB, you're muted. Sorry.
I thought I don't have to answer this, but since you have asked me to do so, yes, it is under the PDC, and PDC has just completed the road from Bukit Tambun through the existing Science Park and the new industrial area at the Penang Science Park North to Juru in January 2019. I think this new road helps to connect Auto City direct into the Science Park, which I think helps a lot. And it is still being maintained by PDC, as rightly pointed out by the mayor. And PDC is maintaining all the roads in the Science Park, including the drain and all that. So I believe it is also FAQ, frequently asked questions. Every dialogue session that I attend with the industrial sector, usually at the end of the session, this sort of a localized management issue will crop up. And I believe PDC had taken note of this challenge, and I think the past 6 months they have resolved quite a number of issues at the local level. And although roads will continue to be damaged by overloaded vehicles, because the fact that in Batu Kawan, a lot of construction works, earth filling works are also in progress. As the mayor said, it is not completely developed. A lot of factories are still undergoing construction, earthwork, heavy vehicles come into, and they impact the road condition. With regard to telecommunication surveys at the science park, the telco structure with a height of 45 meters at Lorong PBM 22 had been erected, to provide service to the whole of Penang Science Park. And PDC is also planning to call a tender to build a service center building located at Science Park North by early next year to accommodate food operators to serve the factory needs. And it is ongoing problem will crop up and then action will be taken. I think a WhatsApp group had been set up with the various person in charge of the factories with PDC, so that any problem can be attended as quickly as possible.
Thank you, CM. But I think maybe we need to have a separate luncheon like this with PDC. Because because it's not only the science park, the same as you say is the FAQ, right? If you're going to help Dato' Lilian pull in investors, you need to show that we've got tech parks that we can be proud of. But when you go to FTZ, Bayan Baru, you got Pematang Damalau, you've got Mandin, you've got Prai. Oh my God, Prai is 50 years old and it looks so dated, right? And so how are we going to instill the confidence of investors? So Dato' Lilian, why don't you weigh in? I'm sure you visit all these places, Silicon Valley, etc., and you see how these places are. So how can we improve ourselves? What's the benchmark that you want us to be like in Penang?
You're doing a great job speaking on my behalf. Why don't you just continue?
I've set the road for you. So yes. I'm sure you would know what is it that's needed in order to attract, because it's not only going out there saying we have good char kway teow, it's also infrastructure and livability, lovability. So what is it that you would like to see, and what can we get PDC and the councils to help you with?
I think if I go in and fight for a project, for a new project. There are a few things that are 101. It's given, right? So for me, one of the biggest selling points for Penang and Malaysia is talent. And talent is the new oil of the 21st century. So everybody talks about talent. That's the most important thing. The rest are given. A highly functional industrial park, infrastructure, connectivity, business friendly, those are given. Because everybody else that comes to the table to bid for the project all comes with that. It's a given, otherwise you don't come at all. You don't even qualify to be on the table to bid for that project. And yes, continuous land bank, roads that work, safety, infrastructure, broadband, those are given, those are needed. And the mayors are very good. They work very hard with me. And one of also the most important factor is that the agencies are very pro business. So even and they support me and support Invest Penang when we go out and bid for a project. So if I have a problem, and I think I have a chat group with all the CEOs of the factories in the FTZ, right? And that's a chat group that I maintain. So, for example, when we did this SCMCO a week ago, there was a huge traffic jam. They send a message to me in my WhatsApp. I send a message to the mayor in the WhatsApp, and the next day the jam is cleared. Because we are so proactive, we're so pro-business, and that's one thing that makes Penang very unique. And that's also a reason that many of the factories here keep on investing and keep on expanding, because they know they can reach out to us. We react to the problem, and we give them solution, and they participate in the management of the industrial park. So, FAQ on Science Park and Batu Kawan keep on complaining about that, because we'll make sure that PDC hears about that, or we'll make sure that CM, being their chairman, will go and knock them on the head and make sure that they do the necessary repair work that they have to do. But yes, industrial park management is very important, because the investor comes in here and they go around to look at all the other industrial parks, and we have to be at par with the rest. We have to be at par with Kulim as well, in the very first place, because it's the next part that they will visit.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, the mayors are all working very hard. There's always this problem when the industrial park is just still work in progress. So that's what PDC always tells me. It's still in progress. I repair this road, and then somebody else comes in, and then they make the roads bad again. I got to keep on repairing, but they have to keep on doing it. And I think like CM being the chairman would have to keep on reminding them.
Well, thank you. I think we've identified the gap, which is PDC lah. Too bad they're not here, but CM is the chairman. No, I'm saying it. I'm rumusan.
Okay.
So because you say the mayors are doing a fantastic job. So
Next year you invite them. Next year you invite them.
Yeah, Michelle, next year we need to invite PDC to the table and get them. How are we going to improve our parks? It's not only infrastructure; it's also the life on the street, and having little shops and places to go, walkability, having trees. This is the modern tech park. If you want to invite people. Now the next question, since we are on this subject. The next level of, if you want to get top tier investments in, increasingly they are looking for high levels of renewable energy in the tech parks. So what are we doing in terms of leveraging on solar or biogas or other forms of RE for our tech parks? So maybe I know PDC is not here; they can't answer. Maybe I throw this to Dato' Razali. I mean, I know you're a big proponent of decarbonization. So what's your suggestion for future of tech park and using renewable energy, Dato'?
Thank you. I'm actually advocating this idea to many industrialists. As far as MBSP is concerned, we have created a guideline. Any developers can design their development which sources 15%, 15, of the energy from renewable energy. For example, like solar, we are promised to give them a fast track on their plan approval. That is one. The second is I've been working with the TNB and also contractor of solar energy. Now, actually, there are big opportunities. Net metering program as well as SARE energy program. Many contractors are willing to invest. For example, like MBSP, we just embarked on this program. We don't have to spend anything. We just need to provide them with a space. Then they will bid for the net metering program and SARE, and the investor or the contractors will invest on solar panel, and we pay the electricity bill lower than tariff given by the TNB. There is a very great opportunity. I would like to invite, as I said just now, I always advocated this idea. Industrialists should grab this program. They don't have to spend anything. Instead of paying to the TNB, they pay to the company which have a tripartite agreement with TNB, the owner of the building, and also the contractor. MBSP is going to launch a very big project in very near future. And we also have gained the advantage of TNB is helping us to put up the LED lighting and also the solar panel with their own program. So it's not money is an issue in this case. You can embark on the project without spend anything, and yet you get a lower tariff compared to the tariff that you are paying now. This is my points. Back to you, Mr. Marie.
Thank you, Dato. So again, a point for PDC when you talk about tech parks is having infrastructure ready so that the players can come in to install, like solar and have a fully uptake. And also on the part of the council, you can always set criteria, so encourage them to have rooftop solar, etc., so that this can be incentivized. So thank you very much, Dato. Anybody wants to add anything to that before I go to the next question? Okay, next question, Dato Adnan, you've been very quiet. So this one is for, will the local government consider lowering tax like assessment, etc., during this tough year of 2020?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. But for assessment, I think this year there is an exercise for reevaluation. But fortunately, there is we have given a rebate 100% on the increment for this year's value. So that's good news for all because we give rebate 100% on the increment for rates this year. And for land, vehicle land in the factory areas, we don't have actually in the Bayan-Lepas Industrial Park, all full of factories. So we don't charge any land assessment for the industry area. So we only charge assessment on those developed area. So that's all that we have to say for this one, Murali.
Okay, thank you, Dato.
I think
maybe,
I want to add on that. Yeah. Actually, both local council, MPVP and MBSP has given a very big amount of rebate for 2020 assessment year. As for Seberang Pride, we have given 27.8 million rebate to the properties, properties owner, and 321,000 of holdings are getting benefit from that. And maybe CM and the ESCO, local government ESCO may announce in very near future, we are considering of also maybe to a certain extent helping on this assessment in year 2021.
Thank you, Dato. Of course, this question is not coming from me, it's coming from the audience. But I would also like to say that when we give the assessments, when they get the assessments, that means it's less money for the local council, which means less money for parks and for upgrades and programs, and it's actually not easy for the local council. We've got only a few minutes left. So the last question I would pose to CM, and CM, it's another FAQ for you. What's the latest with the Kulim Airport? And will the Kulim Airport, how can we complement, how can, Penang Industries and the Penang Airport complement that of Kulim Airport, and what's the general thinking around having two airports in the region?
It is FAA, particularly
answered,
yeah. I think the latest at the National Physical Planning Council, a paper about Kulim Airport was tabled for advice. The National Physical Planning Council only gives advice. So advice had been given to Kedah to comply about condition, including waiting for the Ministry of Transport, National Strategic Airport Study to be completed to see whether the Kulim Airport is necessary or justified or not. So that is a very big hurdle for this project, and we we have to wait until this strategic airport study to be completed in 2022 before they can take further action on it. Penang state government has given our view in that Bayang Lepas Airport cannot be compromised when the Kulim Airport is approved. They must consider the important role of the Penang Airport. Whether Kulim Airport is necessary or not, I think the study will tell us so. But they have major issues to resolve, and the proximity to Penang Airport is a big issue for the government to consider. But I think whatever it is not going to be government funded. The government at the previous meeting, the Ministry of Finance say they have no money to support this project, and it is to be, if it is to be implemented, it is through TFI. So I think at this stage, I say that it is better for the ministry to comment. I would not want to talk too much about this issue because it was seen that I'm trying to sabotage or although I have the privilege of information, I say it's better for the MOT to comment. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, YAB. With that, we come to the end of our session. Thank you so much to all the speakers who responded. I know some of you got the questions last minute or suddenly put to you, and thank you for being quite candid and giving very good suggestions. So over to you, Priscilla. Next one, PDC. Don't forget PDC.
Yeah, I heard that. It's not that we've never invited them. It's difficult to get them to commit to attending any of the events.
Oh, talk to the chairman. Chairman will make sure somebody comes.
Chairman also very difficult. He keeps changing dates all the time. Very busy person.
Talk to the chairman's wife.
Yeah, that's an easier angle. She's my friend. YAB, Dato Adnan, Dato Rosali, Dato Lu, Chok Yan, Murali, everyone, I really thank you for this really informative session. It was very good. I hope everyone was satisfied with the questions.
And the answers.
Yeah.
And the answers.
Answers, yeah, the answers especially, correct. Yes, there's so many things that need to get done, and this has not been a very good year. Well, that means there's more work for us to do next year. We're going to do double extra work. Our apologies if not all the questions were answered. And don't hesitate to contact me if you have other issues and suggestions. And we shall be looking forward to your continued support. Thank you again, YAB. Thank you, Dato' Rosali, Dato' Adnan, Dato' Lu, Chok Yen, Murali. Have a good day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and follow SOPs. Bye all. Oh, wait. Before you say bye, can you all switch on your video? Michelle, I need your video. I want to take a screenshot. Michelle, can you hear me? Can you put on your video? Right. Okay, everyone else that's around who wants to have a photograph taken, and I'll try to send it to you eventually. I'm really bad at sending photographs, just so you know. Okay, everyone's switching on right now. Just wait a little bit longer. Those are on the line, you know how to switch on your video or not? Okay, that's what Danny's in. Tony, are you switching on? For what? Anil, video? Yes, I can see you, Tony.
I can't switch on because the host has stopped it.
Oh. Okay. No, that's okay. Right. Okay, I think we got everyone here. Okay, let's see. Let me take one photo. Look at the camera. Okay, let's go. Stay on. Look at the camera, everybody. Okay then, thank you everybody. Don't
Thank
forget
you.
to
Thank you.
send me suggestions if you need anything.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Stay healthy.
People tak
Thank you.
but strike that question kot. Huh? Masih kuasa.